Anyway, with the coronavirus being bad, a lot of talk show hosts and YouTubers and live streamers are unable to film in their normal studio locations, and we are no different. So, like those talk show hosts and YouTubers and vloggers, we're filming from home casually, a little glimpse into our real lives. So I come before you just sat on my couch, no costumes, no makeup, no props, just me in my normal day-to-day life doing what I do, sitting back, enjoying WrestleMania and eating out my Mysterio.
His sessions never made me feel this good.
The online component of the critically acclaimed and really quite excellent Resident Evil 3 Nemesis has loot boxes. It's called Resident Evil Resistance, and it's one of many asymmetrical multiplayer games out at the moment or coming out soon that for some reason lately, and by lately I mean literally the past 3 or 4 days, I've been calling asynchronous for no reason. And I blame Justin, because I swear I heard him say asynchronous all week, and then I started saying it, but he says he never said it, so I'm pretty sure this quarantine thing has made me lose it. For proper this time. I mean, you just saw me in a skull mask eating a Mysterio toy, and I think that's good content, so yeah. Really crossed a line into wrong territory now, brain-wise. Anyway, it's one of the many asymmetrical multiplayer games on the market at the moment. I've even put asynchronous in the script. Seemingly inspired by the success of Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th. 4 players are survivors with their own unique skill sets, and 1 player is the mastermind if they can get into a fucking game as one, setting traps and sending increasingly monstrous bioweapons after the survivor players to stop them escaping. It's fine as a game, a bit throwaway, will need some rebalancing. The survival horror controls don't quite work for 4-player co-op in tight corridors, though I've actually gotten quite good at guessing where a zombie's head is to shoot it through the body of another co-op player. Oh, and Resident Evil Resistance has loot boxes. Dirty loot boxes, predatory loot boxes, gambling loot boxes. Resident Evil Resistance has loot boxes. Shame on it. Publisher interest in the controversial gambling mechanic has cooled off after a massive trend in the latter half of the 2010s. As governments and commissions around the world have investigated them and often found them harmful, even publishers as greedy and exploitative as EA and Activision have distanced themselves from the shameless and nasty little practice. That's not to say that they've stopped doing them entirely, just take a look at FIFA Ultimate Team and what a fucking con job that is. It's a con. FIFA Ultimate Team is a fucking con. Now, some reviewers and press have made it clear that you cannot directly buy the loot boxes or the in-game currency used to acquire them. Capcom itself has stressed to this point, assuring players that the result points used to buy loot boxes are all earned within the game. However, this does not mean that it is not a premium paid gambling experience that will try and coax the player into spending money on it. See, Capcom has done what the AAA game industry is very, very good at doing. It's created arbitrary steps between itself and the purchase of loot boxes to create a paper-thin illusion of distance. I'm going to call it financial distancing because it sounds a bit like social distancing, and that makes me look like I'm relevant. A bit. No, you cannot buy the loot boxes. No, you cannot buy the currency. But you can buy something, and that something is boosters.
No boost! Are you too insane?
Boosters are nothing new to the sleazy world of microtransactions. They're among the most common and popular form of monetization in the mobile industry, where some games have taken the idea to ludicrous conclusions. Many is the game that will make players wait hours if not days for something to happen unless they pay for a way to speed it up. They're increasingly popular in the mainstream game market as well, offering ways for players to accrue resources such as experience and virtual money faster. Call of Duty Warzone, or indeed Call of Duty in general, offers examples of fairly straightforward boosters unlocked via its Battle Pass system. When consumed, Warzone's double XP tokens do exactly what it sounds like they do: grant double XP to the player or their weapons for a designated period of time. You simply activate one, and then for however long it lasts, you get double the experience you otherwise would have. These XP tokens typically last 15, 30 or 60 minutes. Metal Gear Survive had boosters, which is no surprise as it's one of the most drawn out, grindy, unpleasant to play pieces of shit you could ever hope to try. Survive offered, and I suppose it still does offer if anyone's playing that awful turd, premium boost passes that doubled the resources gathered in the game. These passes lasted either 1 day, 1 month, or 2 months, depending on what you got. And I have to admire the confidence of that. Metal Gear Survive thinking you'll be playing the game that long for so many hours that you'd actually buy the 1 day pass. Then there was that time Bethesda temporarily sold them in Wolfenstein Youngblood, and I literally saw them being sold for premium currency with my own eyes, and even recorded literal video footage of them being sold for premium currency. And Bethesda quickly changed it while their PR guy admonished and patronised people for believing it as if the confusion was our fault. Some games offer permanent boosters, almost as a tacit admission that player progression is about 50% slower than it could be. This is most famously seen in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which offers an eternal 50% gain in XP or in-game currency, depending on which one you get. The industry loves to call its microtransactions time savers, a way to skip the grind that they deliberately designed to be in the game and only exists as an artificial justification for the selling of time savers in the first place. Selling solutions to problems they made up. It's all a scam, whether it's paying for early unlocks, gambling for high-tier gear, or outright purchasing in-game money and level-ups, as you could way back in 2008 with Namco Bandai's Tales of Vesperia. As I've argued before, the existence of any time saver is the game admitting that it's fucking shit. If you're inclined to pay extra money to play less game, that's not a good fucking game. It's a game that was fucked up in a premeditated manner to trick, coerce, or pressure you into spending extra money on the thing. Booster packs are no different, and unlike with instant unlocks, they're more subtly insidious than one might otherwise expect.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
Which circles us back to Resident Evil Resistance and its paid loot boxes. Except they're not paid and you can't buy the currency used to get them, right? So they're not paid loot boxes. This is what Capcom is banking on you thinking. It's hoping you don't cotton on to the fairly obvious facts that you are spending real money on loot boxes. There's just an additional step, weakly obfuscating the fact. Because if you can't spend money to effectively double the rate at which you purchase loot boxes, which is exactly what you do when you buy boosters, well then that is quite literally a premium paid loot box system. It's just one done in a slightly more roundabout way. And in classic fashion, progression in Resistance is fucking slow. You gain experience per character, and that includes masterminds as well, and it's not like you get a ton of XP either. Spread across so many characters and you don't always get to play as your favourite one, the XP distribution makes drip feeding look like a fucking monsoon. While ranking up characters is not something you can pay to boost, yet it all feeds into and compounds the feeling of frustration deliberately fostered by Resistance's progression system. The loot boxes are a whole other kettle of bollocks. There are two main types of loot box in the game: equipment boxes and cosmetic boxes. The equipment boxes are separated between survivors and masterminds and contain genuine in-game advantages. Gear that you can equip onto the characters to boost their skills, such as body armor for extra health or a gun barrel attachment that increases the chances of critical hits. And the cosmetic chests are exactly what you'd expect from a greed-fueled loot box con. The item pool is spread across every survivor and mastermind and contains not just costumes, you know, the stuff you'd want, but pointless bullshit like sprays and voice clips to contrive a sense of rarity community and deliberately frustrate players alongside all the other shit designed to frustrate players. And really, emotes and sprays in a game where you don't have time to really emote or spray because it's a fucking survival horror game with a strict time limit. I mean, what are they in those loot boxes for, if not to be a waste? And I think it's telling that the equipment boxes are separated between masterminds and survivors while the cosmetic boxes lump everything in together. I don't want to hear about how it's just cosmetic. Capcom, along with all the other fucking publishers, know how desirable cosmetics are, how they do affect people's enjoyment of a game. That's why they charge more for them. That's why they make skins as hard to get as possible. Cosmetic chests are more expensive in Resistance than the ones that give you literal in-game advantages. Because, and this might sound strange to some of the power-oriented players out there, but for a lot of people, cosmetics are actually more valuable, more desirable than shit that literally makes them better at playing the game. Because they literally have more fun if their character stands out, if they look unique and cool and interesting and colourful and not boring. When Resistance flings a handful of result points at me like table scraps, I'm actually saving up more for the cosmetic box than the equipment box myself, because I'm one of those people. Or at least I did that at first, until I realised that for the 1 or 2 characters I play as, it's gonna take 10,000 years to get any actual relevant skins. And I mean skins, not fucking voice clips and fucking sprays. I'm not spending money on fucking MP3s and JPEGs. But anyway, that's just a tangent reinforcing old points. That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about here. Well, I mean, it has, but whatever. The amount of currency you earn per game is pretty shit, which makes unlocks a complete and total grind in Resident Evil Resistance. Enter the booster, Capcom's harmless little time saver, to capitalise on the impatience and dissatisfaction Capcom itself created. When I fired it up, the game started me off with 3 free boosters. The first hit is, of course, always free, and I've not seen any since then, so I assume you have to pay for all of the ones going forward. Or if you don't, you get them at a stunningly slow rate. I mean, a rate that lasts days. And without them, waiting to have enough raccoon points, they should have called them raccoon points, to get a cosmetic chest or a higher level of gear loot box is like waiting for this fucking quarantine to lift. The net result, Capcom hopes, is a lot of bummed out players feeling unrewarded and thus tempted to spend extra money to achieve said sense of reward. And that's how boosters work. Basically, their success is directly tied to how successful the game is at making the player feel like shit while compelling them to keep playing. It's an abusive pattern of withholding and temptation that has made the industry billions. And the company gets to claim that everything's okay because it's not actually selling the currency, or the loot boxes, or the unlocks. It's only selling a harmless little time saver that is totally not an exchange of money for the aforementioned rewards. Because you're stupid, is what the industry thinks. You're a mark, and you're going to fall for it, because you're a fucking mark. I expect boosters to become more widespread this decade and coming console generation. I think it'll be the new popular way of capitalising on the concept of monetised grind, especially with the growing popularity of battle passes and the sense of slow, teasing progression they foment. But there's another level of sinister to boosters, and that is how they lock you into the game for set periods of time. Trigger a booster in a game you care about, and you'll soon see what I mean. Using Call of Duty as an example, if you consume an XP token for an hour, chances are you will be intensely focused on playing Call of Duty for that hour. After all, these are premium resources, and as such you'll want to maximise your investment. For me, using an XP token in Warzone is an exercise in anxiety, as I impatiently watch for matchmaking to wrap up and the game to start, each second of waiting draining my chance at doubling my rewards. These tokens commonly do not only count down while you're actively playing the game, they count down in real time. If you spend an XP token for 15 minutes, then 15 15 actual minutes later, it's gone. This includes matchmaking, this includes loading times, this includes sitting on Warzone's plane that poops people. This includes turning the game off and playing Killzone Shadowfall's multiplayer, something I did this week in the year 2020 current year argument. Well, I didn't do it while I had an XP token in another game running, are you kidding me? I spent good token on that XP boost, you're damn right I'm devoting the rest of my life to Call of Duty Warzone. Or the next 15 minutes anyway. And just think, Konami would have liked you to feel that way about Metal Gear Survive for up to 2 months. Not 15 minutes, 2 fucking months. 2 months of feeling beholden to the game because every moment spent not playing it is a moment of wasted investment. And investment is often at the heart of a successful monetization scam, the sunk cost fallacy, the idea that a player has put so much time and effort into a game that they might as well keep sinking more resources into it. It's why so many free-to-play games have an in-game currency as well as a premium one. Why Activision sometimes waits a week or 2 before introducing microtransactions to a game. It's why games involve a lot of crafting and encourage players to build something. The more invested you feel, the more you stick around, and the more you stick around, the more of a chance the game has to sell you something. It's all about that word of the moment. Engagement. Few forms of engagement are as direct and merciless as one that tells you every second not spent engaging is a waste. The permanent boosters avoid this aspect, though it doesn't mean they're saintly by any stretch. The vast majority of boosters, however, are temporary and serve the dual purpose of not only making money directly, but keeping players hooked and spending more time submerged in the game's economic system. It's a double whammy of scummy strategy. Not only is the audience engaged, it's paid for its own engagement. How's that for double the value? Booster packs have never been unpopular in the industry, but I expect to see a lot more of them, especially as asymmetrical multiplayer takes off. The benefits to the publisher are obvious. It allows them a shred of deniability when it comes to paid items like loot boxes. It manipulates the player into spending both money and time, and at heart it's yet another skip the grind microtransaction on top of the dozens of others companies have in their pockets. And as usual, it's obvious. It's obvious what they're doing because AAA publishers are not crafty, they're certainly not subtle, and they know they don't have to be. Their ploys, though numerous, are paper thin, but they don't have to be any thicker than that. They've just got to dupe enough marks to make their billions and damn the consequences. But make no mistake, boosters are no less insidious than any other form of monetization in the game industry. In fact, boosters' particular brand of psychological control can make them among the most sinister. They come to you wrapped in the promise of saving time, they're time savers, when really they want to monopolize your time. But hey, I'm not saying anything the industry is even trying to hide.
In limited fairness to Capcom, they have had a run of top quality games over the past few years. The Resident Evil series has gone from strength to strength after the disaster that was Resident Evil 6. Devil May Cry 5 was fantastic, but we can't forget that Capcom is another corporation, another AAA publisher with AAA ambitions. This is the company that has done this kind of thing with Resident Evil before, putting that shitty raid mode into Revelations 2 and also stuffing that with microtransactions. Hell, they put bullshit microtransactions into Devil May Cry 5 that meant nothing, simply out of habit, it seems. Simply just to have them. So Capcom is not your friend, none of these publishers are. They have done really, really good games. I mean, Capcom's done impressive work, but that doesn't mean it can't be a bit of a shit, which is what it is, because it's a company. It's shit. I'll just say thank God for me, and then we'll cut it, because I ran out of things to say and then just sat there, staring, knowing that I should be talking and not saying anything. Oh god, I'm wacky as hell. Oh yeah. Oh fuck, I've paused WrestleMania.
Got a hold of the single leg, and now Natalia, gifted submission specialist, is wrapped up Liv Morgan.
I like Liv Morgan.
One championship, very important to both these superstars. We saw the WWE Women's Tag Team titles change hands.
Alright, Justin, that'll do.